I'm very pleased to say we have a chance now to talk to Arda Ermut, who's in charge of the Turkish Investment Authority, Invest in Turkey. Arda, your job is to sell Turkey, and once it's been sold to people overseas, it's your job to provide what, I suppose, the after-sales service. In the UK, at the moment, what is your biggest line to people you want to attract to Turkey? How do you convince them?
The UK is definitely a very important country for us because it has been one of the biggest investors to Turkey in the last 10 years. When you look at the volume of the foreign direct investments, it is the second biggest investor in Turkey after Germany. So we think that the potential is always very high, and we are trying to diversify the sectors, and we are trying to increase the value addition to our economy when we try to attract foreign direct investment to our country. This is why we think that the UK can play an important role here. Being one of the most important trade partners of Turkey, it always means that there's a huge potential also with regard to investments too.
Have you got your eye on any particular sectors?
And when you look at the concentration of the FDI at the moment, we can say that the financial services or some sectors like automotive or also aviation and defense playing an important role. When you look at the last biggest deals, you can see that it's also usually in aerospace and defense too. So we think that this is one of the area. These are two of the areas where the potential is the highest. But for example, for this time we are here for a conference for private equities. So this is another area maybe we can play a role here as the agency too.
I suppose it's on your mind, even if it wasn't something that you were dealing with, is a trade deal with the British authorities after Brexit, after Britain has left the European Union. Now, I know you weren't talking about that specifically here now, but are you worried a little bit, or do you see it as a big opportunity?
Actually, and free trade agreement would be a best option among the all Brexit alternatives between Turkey and, of course, and Great Britain. Because we have been one of the first countries to start the negotiation with the UK authorities, and as far as I know, the Lion Fox, for example, was in Turkey last month. So I think the political, the relationship and the understanding on a possible FTA is perfect between the two countries. But of course, on the Brexit issue, in order to see the best results, we must be seeing first the agreement between UK and the EU first.
And this is the difficulty, isn't it?
Yes,
the European Union doesn't know what it's going to look like. Britain doesn't know what it's going to look like. And I suppose as a result of that, Turkey has no idea what it's going to look like and what it's going to want to get out of it.
At least we can say that we are one of the countries we can understand this invisibility or unpredictability the most, because the situation between the EU and Turkey has been an interesting story so far for more than 50 years. So this is why I think we can be one of the countries which can be very supportive for UK at the moment, with regard to getting the best deal. But of course, since the trade between the two countries already developed in a very strong way, actually the UK is one of the few countries we are giving surplus when you look at the developed economies, the relationship of developed economies and Turkey. So this is why we think that the potential is always very high. After the Brexit, of course, we will see whether the situation with EU and Turkey too, because at the moment we have a customs union with EU too. So it will be also maybe discussed again, or it will be renewed or updated. We will see. But in all scenarios, I think the relationship between the two countries will be playing an important role.
You talk about Turkey and the European Union. We're talking about the UK and the European Union as a country that has had its share of setbacks, if you like, in its relationship with the European Union. Are you surprised at the difficulty there appears to be in the UK in trying to get things settled?
No, actually, we always think that the UK has a special case with regard to their relationship to EU. But when you look at the difficulties, it's normal. So the economy is entrenched so far. It's an important, the structure. But as Turkey, we always believe in the healthy development of the EU story. We think that it's a very important project. But at the end, there is the political will of the UK nation. So we think that it's very important they make this decision. So as Turkey, we have to update our relationship with both parties. And since looking at the difficulties, it's something we had already too much for 50 years. So we can say that we are not surprised. Seeing another country, having that problems is not very maybe positive thing. But at the end, we think that UK can get it over without any problem.
Do you think either side is being a bit too stubborn?
Maybe it's not easy to comment on that, definitely, but you know, it's not easy to make decisions since everybody has different priorities. You know, when you look at the deals have been made between EU and other parties, you can see that in every different sector, another country is pushing for another sector. So it's not definitely an easy job to do. Everybody is, it's very easy to blame always the EU officials or bureaucrats. I'm sure that it's the most comforting and easiest way. But at the end, it's also a very important and very difficult project on the other side. And when you look at the political situation individually in every country, the increasing protectionist, the rhetoric, or the increasing nationalist tendencies in the electorate. So it's not easy to deal with the situation as EU. So I cannot blame maybe anybody for being stubborn or making it easier. But at the end, so far the economy is performed not in the ideal way, but I'm sure they have learned many lessons from the last couple of years. I think the results will be better.
What is the story at the moment between the European Union and Turkey about visa-free travel for Turkish citizens within the bloc?
Actually, it was a promise given, maybe 1.5 years ago, if I'm not wrong, between the two parties, especially as a part of the deal about the refugee situation too. So, according to the comments made by the EU officials, it's not likely to be realized in the near future, at least as far as we see. But at the end, since the networks of the business people from both sides is very well developed, maybe it's not affecting too much the business situation. When you look at the tourism situation, it's also recovered very fast this year, at least, thanks to the having any sad events in Turkey, any terrorist attacks and nothing. I'm also a board member of a company which is a joint venture between Lufthansa and Turkish Airlines. It's a low-cost carrier between Antalya, the touristic capital of Turkey, and Germany. And this year, the company is making a record high profit, for example. So from many different figures, we see that the tourist arrival is also very strong coming to Turkey. So I think definitely it will be a very nice situation, a very nice deal.
Okay, so tourism has improved. It's not back to the levels it was before. Growth is not back to the levels it was before. It is improving.
Yes.
All it's going to take is one incident. So how strong do you think Turkey is to withstand something like that?
Actually, when you look at the fundamentals of the Turkish economy for the last 15 years, we had many sad the things which would devastate any normal the economy, like a coup attempt. In the last 2 years, we have 2 elections, 1 referendum, terror attacks, and a coup attempt, jet plane situation with Russia. So it's like a disaster movie, a disaster scenario for many from many different perspectives. But even in that case, the Turkish economy continued to grow, even with decreasing amounts in 2016. But this year we see that there is the first 3 quarters average is around 7%, and the expectation for the year end is also like that. So I think some fundamentals already developed in Turkey very well. So if whatever happens, maybe it's not affecting. It will not kill the economy. Maybe affecting definitely, as we have seen in the last 3 years. Yeah. But even in the touristic situation, you see that because they are the group of people which have been affected very fastly, and they react very fastly to that kind of situation. But they recovered also very, very fast. But of course, having a stable relationship between Turkey and its neighbors in the region is an important key situation for that. And this is why there is an ongoing operation of Turkey in the region too. And at the same time, we expect at least a stabilization in the region, because we have more than 800 kilometers of border with Syria. So it's not easy to deal with that kind of a situation when there are more than 6 different authorities on the other side of the border, definitely. And majority of them are not properly functioning states, actually some different groups, a majority of them terrorist groups. But even in that situation, in the last 1 year, with regard to security or other issues, we didn't have a problem. And at least we hope some stabilization in the region in the following years, as the partners in the area will be agreeing on more issues. We hope, at least. And if the situation in the region goes better, and definitely it will be affecting Turkey very positively, because when an investor also comes to Turkey, they are not usually coming for the domestic market, but the potential they are coming for the whole potential that Turkey addresses around its the borders.
Yeah, I understand. Been very good talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being here, the inviting here.
My pleasure.